deal with that now, get that out of the way, and then later on this hour, I'm going to get to the federal judge, what happened there, Donald Trump's budget and the cuts there, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about that. But one of the things that we need to get established right off the bat is, are we now in a new day? Is it okay now? Are we in a world now where it's okay to go ahead and talk about and joke about, and sometimes not even really joke, about assassinating the President of the United States? Are we now to the point where this is acceptable, where this is okay? It's part of the double standard at play here, because if you had any kind of conservatives that were saying things like this about President Obama, and I'm talking about prominent conservatives. Again, I'm not talking about unnamed people that, some blogger working out of his mom's house that has no, I'm not talking about that. There's idiots everywhere. I'm talking about well-known people that have actual fan clubs and followings, and they're national names, and they're known people. Right? Conservatives never did stuff like this, talked about and fantasized about assassinating President Obama. But the talk of this is really getting over the top from the left right now. And the threats of violence even against Donald Trump, his family. And to me, the real problem here is the deafening silence from the liberal media. The deafening silence from them, the deafening silence from Hollywood, the deafening silence from the colleges and academia, and for that matter, the liberal voices in America that get so outraged about even criticism of Barack Obama over the last 8 years. That's so disrespectful. We need to treat the office of the presidency with respect. Hey, I agree. But conservatives weren't even allowed to disagree with President Obama, or that meant we were racist and disrespecting his office, and it must be because he's black. Remember that? Now you got Donald Trump, and it's okay to be talking about killing him, to carry out mock assassinations. And meanwhile, the only people being outraged by this are conservatives. That's it. The only people. Now, if you had prominent conservatives last year, the year before, over the last 8 years, if you had prominent, well-known, public figure conservatives with a fan base that were carrying out mock executions against Barack Obama, I would absolutely be condemning something like that. But it gets even worse. Why is this not illegal? I mean, Donald Trump tweeted if Snoop Dogg had done a video mock assassination of Barack Obama, he'd be in jail. And the president's right. You have this rapper, Bow Wow, I guess is the name he goes by. His real name is Shad Moss, but I guess he goes by the name Bow Wow. I have no idea who this guy is, but apparently he's a well-known popular rapper. And he got mad at Donald Trump because Trump, had shot back at Snoop Dogg when Snoop Dogg's video has him doing a mock assassination, shooting Donald Trump in the head. Trump fired back saying, if you did that to Obama, he'd be in jail. Right? Well, so here's what this rapper Bow Wow tweets in response back to President Trump. It says, "Ayo, Donald Trump, shut your punk A-word up, talking S-word about my Uncle Snoop Dogg before we pimp your wife and make her work for us." End quote. Pimp your wife and make her work for us. You know what that means, right? I mean, what he's suggesting here is, before we take the First Lady of the United States and force her into sex slavery, subjecting her to multiple rapes as a forced prostitute. That's what it means to pimp someone and make her work for us, to force her to be a prostitute, to be subjected to multiple rapes and so. Now, is he actually really seriously threatening that we have some coalition together where we're going to kidnap the First Lady? No, okay. He's just talking trash. But how is this appropriate? How is this acceptable? How is this legal? I mean, just try to imagine, in your wildest imagination, any prominent conservative voice or conservative celebrity or Sean Hannity or anybody like that saying about Barack Obama, okay, while he was president, you better shut your punk A-word up and quit talking your S, or we're going to take Michelle and force her, we're going to pimp her out as a forced sex slave prostitute. You can't even picture such a thing, can you? That person, if some prominent conservative said that, they'd probably be arrested by the Secret Service. Rightfully so. You can have a Republican in the White House, and it's open game. No harm done, right? What's the media say about this? One big collective yawn. What do liberal celebrities say about this? One big collective yawn. What does the music industry say about this? One big collective yawn. Let me ask you this. Those of you listening, what do your liberal Democrat friends, family, and coworkers say about this? I'll bet it's one big collective yawn. Or accusing you of making a mountain out of a molehill. I was reading this piece in The Hill. The headline is, "Violent threats against the president are now okay?" Let me just read to you a little bit of what they say in here. Quote, "The FBI investigated a threat to kill conservative provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos for the audacity to want to speak at a college campus. Threats against former Labor Secretary nominee Andy Puzder's wife caused him to withdraw himself from consideration in Trump's cabinet. Multiple intimidatory remarks haunted members of the Trump voting electoral college. President Trump has been the target of declarations of violence on a nearly daily basis. And yet when it comes to this constant flow of threats, there seems to be little outrage from the nation's leading journalists and pundits." And by the way, when I say it says little outrage, it's virtually zero outrage, folks. Anyway, they go on. "Social media shines almost every day with a new threat against Trump. Comedian Sarah Silverman called for a military coup against him. Madonna told protesters she thought about blowing up the White House often. Snoop Dogg, of course, with his new music video, assassinates Donald Trump, a Donald Trump lookalike, dressed as a clown. Well, with clown makeup, at least." The piece goes on. "The media has largely glossed over these serious threats with a shrug. A simple Google search on Snoop Dogg's assassination video, for example, yields virtually no mainstream editorials expressing disgust. All of these actions underlines what's been obvious for a while now. The calls by President Obama for civility after the 2011 shooting of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords were never genuine. The political left only uses such efforts as a cudgel to silence their political foes, then turns around to call them Hitler when needed. The selective outrage is deafening." And then Dan Gaynor. Dan Gaynor is a conservative. We've had him on the show many times. He's a Media Research Center's vice president for business and culture. Let me read to you what he wrote in this op-ed. Makes excellent points. The headline, "Snoop Dogg is not the only liberal lunatic obsessed with assassinating Trump. Snoop Dogg's new video depicting a mock assassination of President Donald Trump is disturbing enough. But it's part of a dangerous trend of the left fantasizing about the death or assassination of presidents they oppose, especially Trump. It's terrifying to think that the liberal left has devolved to seeing the death of Trump as just political theater or wishful thinking. The left has graduated quickly from producing a song entitled Blank, the F word, Blank Donald Trump, performed by YG with G-Eazy and pop star Macklemore, and violently attacking Trump's supporters. Now they're talking about, quote, blowing up the White House, bringing back would-be presidential assassin John Hinckley, or, quote, shooting that mother blanker. It appears there is a terrifying liberal penchant for endangering the life of the president and reveling in it, singers, celebrities, journalists have all joined in the bloody Trump assassination fantasies. Just a few months ago, comedian Bill Maher, during the presidential campaign, joked during a D.C. performance that he was getting nervous about the presidential race tightening. He said, quote, "If this race is even the week before the election, somebody's going to have to go out there," and he was clearly implying somebody needs to assassinate Trump if there's a chance he could win this thing. He paused, and the audience just started cheering. Maher then said, "Why do you think they let Hinckley out?" Okay, Hinckley is, you may recall, Hinckley is the one who shot Ronald Reagan. And then, of course, the audience is just laughing at the notion of this. The piece goes on from Dan Gaynor. Madonna was one of several anti-Trump speakers during the Women's March in D.C., talking about her, quote, revolution of love, when she said, quote, "I've thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House," end quote. This is just one day after Trump took office. Rapper Rick Ross also performed a new video stating, quote, "Assassinate Trump like I'm Zimmerman." Assassinate Trump. I mean, they're not even hinting at it. They're outright saying the words, assassinate Trump. You know, it blows my mind, folks, because there was a day when this was considered illegal. It actually is supposed to be illegal. Donald Trump should sic his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, on these people. The Attorney General's office right now ought to be launching a criminal investigation into these people, into Madonna for talking about blowing up the White House, into Snoop Dogg for doing a mock assassination, into this other rapper, whoever he is, who flat out says, let's assassinate Donald Trump, into Bill Maher for actually calling on people in a wink, wink way. Somebody needs to get out there and take him out. Into this other rapper for threatening to subject the First Lady of the United States to multiple rapes as she's pimped out as a forced prostitute. Anyway, the piece goes on. The liberal news site Fusion even posted a cartoon titled, quote, "The best case scenarios under Trump." And there were 4 best case scenarios. One of those 4 scenarios was that Trump is assassinated by a double agent known as the, quote, Slovenian Slayer, kind of code presumably for Melania Trump, who is from Slovenia. On ABC's The View, Sonny Hostin wondered if the attempted assassination of Trump was because of the campaign's vileness. So an assassination attempt on Trump already, well, maybe it's his own fault because of how vile he is and was. 2 separate British journalists have now openly called for Trump's assassination. Monisha Rajesh for the UK Telegraph tweeted, quote, "It's about time for a presidential assassination," end quote. The Sunday Times columnist India Knight said, quote, "The assassination is taking such a long time," end quote. But here again, folks,